Okay, let's take a look at the practice questions and see how to apply the 6 testing tips that I gave you guys in the previous section. Let's take a moment. Let's read it. So it says, what is the most important to consider when storing personally identifiable information about customers? So basically, we're storing customers' PII. What is the most important thing we should be considering? A, encryption methods. B, laws and regulations. C, data location. D, access controls. Okay, what answer did you get? Okay, so did you select A, encryption methods? Well, that's a correct answer. Sounds good. When you're storing PII, you should be thinking about how you're encrypting it. You can't leave it in clear text. Laws and regulations. That's correct. You got to follow your laws and regulations. If the law says don't store it, don't store it. If the law says you can't store people's social security number or people's credit card because your industry doesn't allow it or law doesn't allow it, don't do it. Data location. That's also correct because certain laws and regulation dictates whether you could store them in the boundaries of this country or not. GDPR may have requirements for this. Access controls. You got to control who can access it, like having like Windows permissions on it. So, the weird thing about this question is all 4 choices are correct. Now, let me give you guys a tip. Anytime you see a question where this most, it says primary, know that all choices are correct, or at least 2 of them are correct. In this particular one, all 4 is technically correct, but which one is most important? Now, let's apply the tips. Number 1, think like a manager. Were you able to get the answer? Did you change your answer by thinking like a manager? Which one here would you guys say is the think like a manager choice? Number 2, I had mentioned another tip where I said, if one choice does the other, then that's the answer. What choice here do you think is doing the other choices? That's another one we should think about. Another thing I tell my students to justify your answer. If you select any one of these things, can you justify the answer against the other answer? If you're doing one choice, another tip was if you're doing one choice, you're not doing the other. So if you're doing encryption methods, you're not looking at laws and regulations. If you're doing access controls, you're not encrypting anything. If you're putting the data in the right location, you're not encrypting anything. Okay, you're not looking at your laws and regulations if you're doing data location. Now, I know in real life you're going to look at all these things, but in this exam, we're looking at the most important one to consider. And the answer here is laws and regulation. Did you get it? I hope you did. Because, first of all, think about this. If you're the boss of a business, or go to your boss and say, I think we should be storing more PII. What do you think the boss will say? I'm talking a high-level CEO type boss. They're probably going to say, well, what laws and regulation dictates what we should be doing? I think B is more of a management answer. I think A is a tech guy answer. So is C and D. The other thing is B actually does C, D, and A because laws and regulations could dictate the different encryption methods. It could dictate where the data should be stored and how it should be accessed. So B actually does A, C, and D. That's why B is even a more correct answer. If you're doing one of these things, you should do B because by doing that, you're doing the other. How do we justify this correctly? Because it is the most important thing that any company should be thinking about. So we read the question carefully. We're thinking like a manager. We can justify our answer. We know that B does the rest. Expect on your CISSP exam to get nearly 100 questions. That's going to look just like this. Now there's going to be a few more questions where they're knowledge based, in which case either you know it or you don't. There may be a question on a subnet and IP address. There may be a question, how strong is a cipher or what type of algorithm this is in cryptography. Yeah, those questions, if you memorize it, you get it right. But expect most of your exam to look just like this. Because your exam will always ask you to choose the most, the best, most likely, primary type questions. The other ones you're going to get are these ones where they're going to like choose next. What should you do first? And here's a quick tip on those. Just put them in order. Any question you get that says which one should come next or first, all those choices are probably going to come somewhere in the outline of the steps, but you got to choose which one comes first. You just generally put them in order. Okay, this brings me to the end of this section and the end of this series. I hope you found this course very informative. Hopefully you leave me a good review. You enjoyed this introduction. Hopefully your studying goes well. And I hope that all of you guys pass on your first try. Always let me know. Send us an email. Update me in the forums. And good luck on your exam.